Hi everybody, welcome back to the Limit Breakdown, where we break down the latest in TV, movies, and everything going on in entertainment. I'm your host, Migs.
I'm Sid.
And today we're going to be doing our review of Season 3 of The Mandalorian. And our too long didn't watch take on The Mandalorian Season 3 is 3.5 Hearts. We really enjoyed this season. I thought it had great use of the expanded lore of Mandalore. Really good action sequences, and of course Juan Carlos Esposito as the primary villain was fantastic.
However, it was a little slow pacing, I'd say, for the first half. Mando himself felt kind of like a side character in his own show. And as far as the lore goes, it relied too much on other content and shows for what is actually going on.
Alright, so stay tuned after our intro for our deep dive into Mandalorian Season 3.
Welcome back to our review of Mandalorian Season 3. Now, Migs, as a fan of Star Wars and Mandalorian,
Just a little bit.
what did you think of Season 3 of The Mandalorian?
So, I think Season 3 of The Mandalorian was made for fans like me.
Nerds.
Yeah, nerds. It's one of those where, like, I've watched the Clone Wars. I watched Book of Boba Fett. I've watched a lot of the expanded lore and expanded content, and so they tied a lot of loose ends from a lot of Dave Filoni's previous work with Clone Wars and Rebels, and brought it all together with Bo-Katan Kryze and kind of giving her a somewhat conclusion to her story that began originally in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated series.
Gotcha.
She felt like the secondary protagonist. I mean,
I can see it.
She was the protagonist, and Mando felt like the secondary protagonist. Very much. But again, the title of the show is The Mandalorian. So, like, she is a Mandalorian. So, for this particular season, she was the Mandalorian that they chose to focus on.
That is true.
But, we were all very much accustomed to focusing on Din Djarin's character and what he was going on. But I liked that. I liked that they brought all of these things together. And so, like I said, it was satisfying to me. For me, it was a great season. I personally would have given it a higher ranking than the 3.5 that we gave it, but I understand also the criticism because we even brought this up with you that you hadn't watched the Book of Boba Fett and you didn't realize why Grogu was back with Din Djarin.
Yeah. I've seen all of the Mando. I saw season 2, and I was like, oh, Luke has Grogu, and then I started watching, and I'm like, what is going on? So I had to text Migs. I was like, why is Grogu back? And he's like, long story short, Boba Fett, and I'm like, I'll figure that out later. So he had to cover me on some of the backstories. I have not seen Clone Wars or Rebels. I saw the Clone Wars, the animated, the short little 5-minute ones, but those were, I don't think it was as canon as the Clone Wars show. And I agree with you. Mando definitely felt, especially the second half of the season, he felt like his own side character. I actually really enjoyed Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
Her character was very compelling, great acting. And Mandalorian, and what was funny is because I guess the creators realized, or the writers realized, that it's now a Bo-Katan show, they started actually mentioning Din Djarin's name rather than just calling him Mando or Mandalorian. They're like, Din Djarin Mandalorian. Din Djarin. So they're like, I see what you're doing there. And you can't just say Mando and like 70 other people. What?
I thought that was funny at one point where when they're back in that on that one planet with what's his name? He played Apollo Creed. What I'm talking about.
Yeah, the
Carl
mayor.
Weathers, I think.
I think so.
But anyway, he yells into the field, "Hey, Mando!" And it's like nothing but Mandalorian.
Yeah, he was the high High Chancellor, I think.
Yeah.
Like High Chancellor. Which is another. So this is a very, very nitpicky thing. I found it kind of annoying. The show is called Mandalorian. Manda. Right? And the whole time, and he's like, Mando. No, it's. If you're gonna say it, say Manda. It's Mandalorian, not Mandalorian. It just felt weird to me. He kept saying Mando. No, it's Manda. But I guess know, Manda maybe, seems weird.
Yeah, maybe it's like a shortening thing, like a Steve-O type thing. Hey, Sido, what's up? What's up, Sido?
I don't know.
It's a stretch. I'm stretching here.
Anyway. Now, beyond that, I want to talk about some things like the characters, right? So they reintroduced Bo-Katan, obviously the major character. They reintroduced some of the other Mandalorians that they had. The main Mandalorian leader lady. With
the armor.
The armor. She had a pretty major role in this. You know,
she did.
Basically speaking for the tribe and saying this is what we do, is what we don't do.
Well, she's particularly for the Children of the Watch, which is Din Djarin's group. She's sort of like a de facto spiritual leader because they're such a warrior focused tribe. It makes sense that like the core of their beliefs revolves around someone that can literally give them their armor. So like
they're like the Spartans of Star Wars,
basically. But much like the Spartans, there were different sects and different tribes that had different beliefs. That's why you had the Children of the Watch that stemmed from Death Watch, which was the group that actually ended up following Darth Maul towards the fall of Mandalore.
Gotcha.
And so whereas other Mandalorians like Bo-Katan herself and the groups that were her, they didn't have a strict guidelines, especially as far as like removing their helmets and stuff like that. For a while there were so many rumors about how like the armorer was secretly working with Moff Gideon, or how like she had some sort of secret plot. And I liked that, although it could have been very easily for them to lean into that they didn't.
Yeah. Like
that it actually was, hey, the key to Mandalore succeeding is for the Mandalorians to stick together. Yeah. And that I thought that was pretty awesome, that instead of them, because again, they could have very cheaply made her into like a double agent or something, but I think it was the right choice to keep her being integral to the story and not a type of double agent and whatnot.
Yeah, fair. That makes a good point. Another character that I thought was very interesting was the Doctor in I think episode 3 or something like that.
The
cloner who was, he's like, I want to do this clone technology. It's for the Republic. And it's one of those, he has good intentions. So he goes to the Empire's ship to steal a few things. And obviously gets intentionally caught by the girl who works for Moff Gideon.
Yeah, so they were part of that New Republic kind of like amnesty program, where it was like they were trying to show that they weren't like the Empire, and they were giving basically former people that worked for the Empire a chance to redeem themselves.
Yeah,
and she was almost like a triple agent, because she was.
Her allegiance was to Moff Gideon.
Yeah, her allegiance was to Moff Gideon.
Yeah.
Which I was a little confused, because I would have thought that she would have wanted to help him and maybe even possibly help him escape to get back to Moff Gideon. And I didn't know if because at the end of the episode that was focused on the Doctor, I think his name was like Dr. Ershing or something like that. But anyway,
he got his brain fried.
So. Yeah, he's got his brain fried. And I thought that was also a very interesting thing as well, because it was kind of like them showing you where the New Republic went wrong, because they're like, oh no, this isn't a mind flare, this is something completely different. But he's like, bro, that's a mind flare.
Yeah. Yeah, he looked at it. And what's funny is also that episode, well, actually, I really enjoyed that episode, and I didn't understand the significance of it until the very, very end. and it was a small part. That's why I said originally that this pacing of this show was very slow, because a lot of things didn't connect until episode like 5 or 6, where everything started connecting. So I'll mention the Doctor. So Doctor talking about the clone technology. Last episode, Moff Gideon is making clones of himself, and he wants to imbue midichlorian genes, or somehow that those clones have midichlorian powers.
So I was a little thrown off by that, because I thought what we were going to see was how the First Order eventually acquired the technology to be able to create Snoke, right? So we found out obviously later on that Snoke was like an attempt at cloning a Force sensitive, so that Sidious could take over and whatever.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought that this was how we were gonna get the somehow Palpatine returned, and I was unimpressed with Moff Gideon. That was the one criticism that I have of Moff Gideon. It was just like, that's your big solution. It's like literally like every manager that's like, well, I can't be everywhere at once, and this guy goes, wait,
but can I?
Wait, and what if I did?
Yeah,
and I had the Force.
Yeah, right.
Although it was a nice touch that after the ending of season 2, where he saw his robots get wrecked by Luke Skywalker.
Oh yeah.
That he was like, you know what? Forget androids, forget robots. I need something. So like he made the Mandalorian armor that he was wearing, and that he knew that Beskar is resistant to lightsaber.
Yep.
So.
Yep, I liked his helmet. It looked kind of like Darth Maul's too. I thought it was a good, cool touch. Another thing that I thought was very interesting. So earlier in the Mandalorian season, the scene where they go to their secret hideout, and all the children are training and everything, and they train Grogu or whatever, and one of the kids gets snatched up by the pterodactyl.
Yeah.
And they're flying through. I thought this was kind of weird. They're flying through to rescue the child, and all their jetpacks, they're all going, and then all jetpacks start failing, right? Trying to chase this pterodactyl. Last season, the guy, he's like, oh, I have to go to the main ship, and he uses a jetpack and just flies into the stratosphere with no problem. How is he able to fly into the stratosphere with no problem, but he can't chase the pterodactyl through the terrain?
There's a simple explanation for that.
And it is...
No. So when the pterodactyl kidnapped the kid, right?
Yeah.
They were in the middle of training. They probably didn't... There was a possibility that they didn't have like full tank, full jetpacks full of fuel. They could have already had gotten, done with the training journey or whatever. Whereas they were getting ready and geared for this battle. All of them had full tanks. All of them. And if you think about it, the ship, it wasn't like it was in outer space.
It was in
low...
low.
in low stratosphere. So that's like, what, 6 miles out? So it's not unreasonable to think that it could travel 6 miles.
Fair. I just thought that part was kind of weird to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's I get it.
Yeah. Grogu's fight scene with a child, also really funny. I thought it was really cool. I'm not a huge Grogu fan, honestly, and nothing against him. I thought he was cute in the first season, and then after that, I'm like, he's just a pain and annoying. This season, he finally has training, obviously from Luke. Yeah. So he's doing more, right? He's actually fighting.
What I enjoyed about this particular season is that they're showing you that he's more cognizant than what they've allowed you to see before. Because, I mean, yes, he looks like a child, but this is a 50-year-old creature.
Yeah. So,
like, the fact that he got in between the two different factions of the Mandalorians when they were arguing, and he was like, no. Oh yeah,
no.
The fact that they gave him a little mech suit that was super
hilarious.
dope.
No,
that was super dope.
Yes, no. Oh man, that was very cute and that was hilarious. If that ever comes out like a little plushie,
yes,
I'll get that.
That was super dope. But showing you that there is a consciousness there. there is like, you know, he may not be able to vocalize everything, but he
can understand.
he is very much, you know, a creature that's been around for a while, and the fact that he's starting to gain a little bit more independence when the Praetorian guards were chasing after him,
those
and
3 red ones.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he's doing all the flips and bounces, and like I thought it was particularly funny that he was laughing, like he was having a great time. These guys are like,
yeah,
and
they're
he's
supposed to be
just
the
bouncing around.
elite guards. That fight scene actually was really good, which I'll mention.
Man,
So I was gonna say, overall, I think the fight scenes in season 3 have been really well choreographed.
Yes,
They looked very realistic to a degree. Nothing was over the top, like he's like, you know, flicking his hand and the guy goes flying to a degree. It's been very realistic, very appealing, and anytime Din Djarin Mandalorian fights, he does headshots here and there.
Oh yeah,
especially, you know, in that fight scene that we're mentioning with the guards. He flips him and then right in his head, boom.
Yeah.
And there's multiple times where he did that. I'm like, ah, dang.
Yeah.
Homeboy is wrecking them.
Yeah.
So that I thought the fight scenes were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, they've done a great job with choreography on this. And going back to the Praetorian guards, and man, they did a good job of like making them seem like a threat when they first introduced them with the fight against Paz Vizsla. And you know the fact that like they went in and they wrecked him, and you know he was going to town. Like he cleared out a whole room of these, you know, dark troopers with the Mandalorian armor, and then these guys come out and just and they made him seem. But then also disappointingly, it's kind of like the whole the Praetorian Guard fight scene in The Last Jedi, where it was like yes, they made them look like badasses, but at the same time, like now I did appreciate that Din Djarin didn't just come in and wreck them. Like he struggled.
He had a good fight.
It took help from Grogu.
Yeah, Grogu keeps, which was so funny. It's like the biggest troll, right? So he doesn't have enough power to like slam them.
Yeah,
he can just push them over. So they would get up and he just pushes them down. They're like, and it doesn't hurt them. It's just annoying. You're just like, oh my god, I have to. And it's so funny because he's just like gently like knocking them down. It's not hurting them. It's just annoying. Oh my god, I thought that was very funny. I would be a good if I had the Force powers. I would do something like just gently just knocking me over. Just so yeah, that was actually pretty cool. The fight scene with Moff Gideon and Bo-Katan.
Yeah.
Right. Initially, the fight started with Din Djarin, and then went to Bo-Katan. Very good, very satisfying because of both sides. You know, obviously Moff Gideon wrecking Bo-Katan at the beginning, and then towards the end, they both kind of go off on him.
I don't know how I feel about them destroying the Darksaber, or at least damaging it.
Yeah. Now, is Moff Gideon's hand robotic? But from it looked like Bo-Katan held the Darksaber, which obviously signifies that she's the leader of the Mandalorians, right? So that's the whole.
Which
I
didn't necessarily like how they did that, because originally there was this whole conflict because Mando had defeated Moff Gideon, and so he got claim to the Darksaber, and then, you know, one of the reasons why Bo-Katan couldn't accept the Darksaber from Din when he tried to give it to her was because previously she had accepted the Darksaber without winning it in combat before. She was given the Darksaber originally by Sabine Wren.
Yeah.
And then she lost it to Moff Gideon. You'd later come to find out that she didn't lose it in battle. She gave it up. But there's this whole superstition about if you don't win the Darksaber in battle, then basically like your reign is cursed.
Yeah.
And so she kind of, you know, she was the one in charge when Mandalore fell. So she kind of, took that to heart. And so she didn't want to accept the saber again and not win it in combat. But then she kind of got it via loophole, because, you know, Din Djarin was trying to confirm that, you know, Mandalore had like a a survivable environment. So
Yep.
he goes in, and then there's like that robot under the city that like surprises him and knocks him
Yep.
out, and then she comes in, and mind you, that is the one thing that I thought was cool, because like with the Darksaber, they've been saying that, you know, the crystal, kind of like any other kyber crystal in a Darksaber, it feeds your energy through it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have to be in a certain balance, if you will, in order to properly wield it. And Din Djarin was struggling with the Darksaber. He said it felt
super heavy,
yeah. Whereas when Bo-Katan picked it up, man, she was like, it slices, it dices. Like she was just going to town. So yeah, so they use so the robot captures Din Djarin, and the saber falls down. So he's like, well, I got captured by this creature, and she defeated the creature that defeated me. So ipso facto, it's now hers.
Yeah, they're like A square plus B square plus C square. Oh, yes, that makes sense.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, so my question was, so at the fight with Moff Gideon, she has a Darksaber. He grabs her hand, and then it looked like he crushed her hand, and in so crushing the Darksaber.
Okay, so I rewatched that scene since the
Okay.
last time that we talked about it, and he's got the wrist right above her
At the
hand.
hilt.
At the hilt.
So he
he
doesn't actually
crushes
crush
the hilt.
And he just...
And it's just above her hand.
So that means he has to have that power.
So here's the thing. If you noticed, whenever he moved, it made a mechanical sound.
Yeah.
So his suit is like, because he wasn't as strong as them before.
Yeah.
So this suit is like mechanically enhanced.
Gotcha. So when he wears a suit, it's like kind of like Iron Man suit.
Yeah, yeah.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That makes way more sense. Where when he crushed, he was able to crush the entire.
Yeah.
Well, bend it in
Yeah.
half. Bend
Yeah.
it in half.
So on the one side of things, I can see why they did it, because now this sort of, you know, they don't have to rely on the Darksaber as like a symbol of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
They, you know, but my question is, did they leave the Darksaber? Because the thing blew up. So did they leave it?
Crash the ship in there.
Because even though the hilt was destroyed, the crystal's still good. So they could always rebuild the hilt.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if they actually end up doing anything with that. It'd be really cool. You know, later on, if that ends up being the lightsaber that Grogu ends up using, maybe even build his own lightsaber with that crystal.
That would be interesting, because then Grogu would be not only a Mandalorian, because at the end they say that he is now a Mandalorian.
Yeah.
He would also have the Force powers, very similar to the original Mandalorian.
Yeah, and one of the other symbols of you know, he who's worthy of ruling Mandalore is the ability to tame the mythosaur, and and at the end of the final episode, you see Grogu stepping into the water and then kind of like using his force powers, and then you see the mythosaur like open its eyes.
Yeah.
So you know that
connection.
Yeah.
Wow, that would actually be very interesting if Grogu takes over that.
So I mean, it's an interesting place to where they're going. I like where they position Grogu and Din Djarin towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I like that they went ahead and made it official.
Yeah.
That, you know, they he officially adopted him.
Mm-hmm.
Now he is Din Grogu.
Yeah, Din Grogu. That was actually pretty funny.
So that's pretty cool.
Yep. I want to mention one more thing before we close out.
Sure.
Was earlier in the season, again, I keep bringing this back because earlier in the season was very slow, but it was important.
Mm-hmm.
When the Mandalorian armor lady again was talking to Grogu, and Grogu had a flashback.
Oh yes,
of Order 66.
Yes,
right. Because now, mind you, Grogu was alive and one of the younglings in Order 66.
Yes.
He happened to escape.
Yes.
And he had that whole flashback of how he was able to escape, who helped him escape, and all that stuff.
Yes.
Very emotional and very touching. And now you understand kind of what Grogu has been through.
Yeah.
And I thought, and that kind of brought back at the end with, you know, when they were all fighting, and then your theory when he was saying is like, oh, well, now if he can hold the, maybe if he can hold a Darksaber.
Well, what's interesting about that flashback is there's a couple of things very cool about it. More on the uber nerd side, but
so Easter egg type things.
Okay, so before we were wondering how it was that Grogu managed to escape out of the Jedi Temple. Right, it's revealed that the Jedis that were protecting him basically ushered him into an elevator, and then on the other side of the elevator was a previously unknown Jedi.
Yeah.
Okay. This Jedi ended up being Kelleran Beck. Kelleran Beck was played by Ahmed Best, who played Jar Jar Binks in Episode 1. Right. So Ahmed Best famously received a lot of attacks and hatred from the Star Wars community for his role as Jar Jar Binks, and famously, you know, struggled with a lot of issues to the point where he almost took his own life. And
bad fans.
Yeah.
Bad fans.
But it was really cool that they gave him as an opportunity to now come back into the Star Wars universe, come back as not just a Jedi Knight, but a Jedi Master, and to be the one to rescue Grogu. Additionally, when Kelleran Beck was the Jedi Master in charge of the younglings, so it makes sense that he would be the one to get them out. When he came down, he asked where the rest of them, assuming that he wasn't just looking for Grogu. He was looking for all of them, but Grogu was the only one that they were able to get to him. As he made his way out of the temple, he escaped on a Nabooian ship, right? Which, if you remember around that time, the only basically the people from Naboo that were in Coruscant at the capital were Padme and Jar Jar Binks. Right, so we know that Padme ends up with Anakin on Mustafar, right? So it's only logical that this ship had to belong to a then Senator Binks. So not only did they redeem Ahmed Best by making him a Jedi Master, they redeemed Jar Jar Binks by having him. Again, this is all a theory, but basically having him participate in the escape of Grogu.
Gotcha. That's actually pretty cool. I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah,
that's actually pretty cool. That's a great Easter egg. I like that because Jar Jar Binks got a lot of hate. And
yeah, he did.
I do want to mention, if you're a fan of something and you don't like a character, don't blame the actor. Blame the writers. Bad fans. An actor is doing exactly what they're told to do. Bad fans.
Don't blame the writers either. At the end of the day, this is creativity. This is a show. You can like it. You can not like it. You can like not liking it. Like it's just, you know.
Yeah. Final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I understand the criticisms of this particular season. But for me personally, I thought it was a great season of The Mandalorian. I'm super excited to see where it goes. I like that they basically reset the status quo with Mando and Grogu, and now they're going to be able to, you know, go back off to having their own independent adventures, not tied to a larger narrative. Which, I mean, of course there will be ties to a larger narrative, but you know, but I liked where it placed them up. I liked that they were kind of to tie a nice little bow on a lot of these stories, and I like the fact that they took the time to, you know, tie up loose ends from Rebels and Clone Wars, and even though you know, they didn't necessarily have to address any of those stuff. That's why I said I felt like this season was made more for the fans of the older shows of a lot of Dave Filoni's work, and that's why I thought it was great. But I definitely do recognize the reason why some people had criticisms of it.
Yeah. I thought season 2 wasn't as strong. It was an entertaining one, but it wasn't my favorite. I actually really enjoyed season 3. I enjoyed the second half of season 3. Yeah. Earlier in the season was very slow, but as the story progressed, the season progressed, it started connecting dots, and I started to enjoy it more. But it was definitely slow pacing. Overall, very enjoyable. If you haven't watched season 3, I recommend watching it. It builds a lot of lore, not just around Din Djarin Din Djarin Mandalorian, but the other Mandalorian as a tribe as a whole, and I really enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
So yep. Thank you guys for watching. Let us know what you thought. Your thoughts, opinions, concerns, comments.
Let us know anything else that you want to let us know. And as always, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay tuned for more content coming out on the channel. And keep watching. We appreciate you guys. Okay?
If you like our videos, leave a comment, hit the bell, subscribe, and press the like button.
That's awesome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye! I hope your days are awesome.